Today we are looking at a Hockney inspired session. This is the book and these are some still lives of vases of flowers. We're going to do a similar theme, although you can take whatever design you want to do. So I have just done 2 line drawings. One is going to form the basis of a cactus plant and the other ones are tulips. So I'm going to take the cactus first and see how we get on. So what I want you to do is we need to understand which is the correct side of the image. So in all of these shapes or templates, we're just going to put a C for correct side, and then what I want you to do is I want you to cut out each shape. So if you're doing your own design, you need to keep this fairly simple and straightforward. So we're going to cut out each of these. Now this might take a while, so just be as neat as you possibly can, because this always affects the end result. And try not to cut into the shape itself. We want isolated shapes. There's lots of ways to do this really, but we're going to just try and make it quite simple. This is another shape. Now, because it's a fairly impressionistic image or piece of work that we're going to do, you don't necessarily need the still life to be in front of you. You can kind of make up the shade and tones as this one here. If you wanted to do a line drawing from something, a vase of flowers, that you have in your home, then that might give you some further inspiration. But for us today, we're just going to look at doing a version where you don't actually need the still life in front of you. And I think that, although that might get lost and it might become irrelevant, just put a C there. Okay, so once we've got our templates or shapes sorted, then what we need to do is we need to think about shade and tone. So on these images here, we have lots of mark making. So mark making really is to fill in. Do we fill in as a hatch? Do we do a straight hatch? Do we do a bit of scribbling? Some dots? Solid? Yes, smooth and solid, as is. What kind of mark are we going to use for our still life? If I look on here, what I can see, if I just move this into shot, what I see on here is we've got some rubbings. So one of the easiest ways to do mark making is to take rub-ins. So we'll kind of look at that as well as. So we've got the mark making to think about, but we've also got shade and tone to think about as well. So if we have shade and tone, if we normally work on a 5 value scale. So if we had a 2B pencil, and a 2B pencil is for drawing, because it's softer than a HB. So this is the darkest that my pencil will go. I'm getting a rubbing from underneath this mat. But we're not going to worry about that just now. Okay, so that's the darkest it will go. And then if I ease off the pressure, then it will become lighter. I'm not going to fill all this box in, but lighter still, until we get to white. So we call this a value scale. So we've got white, light grey, mid grey, dark grey, and black. And so what we're trying to do is on here, we're trying to make sure that our collage has some white, has some light greys, some mid greys, some dark greys, and potentially some blacks. If I had a Sharpie, it would work in exactly the same way. This is the black, solid, as is. But I can't ease off the pressure with the felt tip. So what I have to do is I need to open up to allow some white space. I open up more till I get to white. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at mark making and shade and tone to give us a tonal value of a collage. So this is what we are looking to do. First of all, I'm going to do some solid colours, some grayscale solid colours in paint. So I think this is too big, so we'll just do a smaller version. So if I think about the 5 value scale, then what we're going to do is we're going to mix some black and white. So when we're mixing paint, we are going to just put some black down, and we're going to put some white down. This is acrylic paint. These acrylic paints are fairly thick. Now what you do when you are mixing colour, you tend to mix dark into light. So I'm just going to keep these clean. So I'm going to take a lot of white, but I'm only going to take a tiny little bit of black. If I went the other way, I'd be using so much white to actually achieve a light grey. So after white, then I'm going to just cover this in light grey. Now it doesn't matter if it's not painted up to the edges. We're just going to have a light grey, so that's nice. Then we're going to have a mid grey, so I'm going to take a little bit more black and add it into this palette. And this is going to act as my mid grey. Now normally with acrylics, we're not going to put too much water in. The water is just to free it a little bit so it doesn't create this dragging here. So this dragging means that we've not got enough liquid and possibly enough paint on our brush. Okay, so this is going to act as my mid grey, just to use in various places. And then I want a dark grey. So dark grey, I'm just going to have to add a little bit more white into there because I've run out of paint. A bit more black than I would normally. Okay, this would be dark grey. This. And then we need black. And black I can just use here, just make it a little bit more fluid. And then we have black here. So when you're painting, I'm obviously going a little bit too quick, but when you're painting, just paint in daubs, which means in short strokes, just to get an evenness of coverage. Okay. Perfect. So what we have then, just move those out of the way. We can see that we have a 5 value scale. So we've got white, light grey, mid grey, dark grey, and black. And they should be fairly equal. So what we say, if we look through half closed eyes, it gradually goes up. That could do with being a little bit lighter, but good enough for our collage. So shade and tone. Tone is to get lighter, so you add white. Shade is to get darker, so you add black, shade and tone. Now I want to kind of come back to the mark making, because this mark making here is smooth because we've painted it smooth. So what we want to do now is we want to get some rub-ins to create some interest and some marks within our collage. So I'm going to leave these to dry, and I'm going to get some paper ready for our rub-ins. So here we are then, where the value scales in paint are just drying, and going back to this value scale here, black is going to be the paint, and now we're looking at taking some rub-ins in light, mid and dark grey. So what you need is you need some graphite, a graphite pencil. So it's a graphite stick, and we're going to use the edge, one of the edges. And if I just take the table that we've been doing today, and we take the edge, you can see that when we do a rub-in, it lifts off the texture of underneath. So you can rock back and forth. Okay, so we just leave that to one side, and then we will do quite a few bits. So next I'm going to do the grate. So what we're going to do now, guys, we're going to do this grate. It might be hard to see, but obviously you'll see the results. So we just use the long edge to actually rub the grate. And then we've got the radiator here. If we do the top of the radiator, it doesn't matter if your paper slips, because all this is going to be cut up. We're just looking at some nice texture. And if we just do the side, probably need to get somebody to hold this. Doing it at home. And if we just do this wall, because there's hardly any texture to the wall, then obviously the value, the shade, will be darker. So we just go all along the wall. We don't need to go right up to the sides. Okay, so all we need to observe really with our mark making, our rubbins, is that there is some dark rubbins, there is some mid-tone rubbins, and going down to lighter tone. So the more that you have white, the lighter, or the whiter the gaps, the lighter the value is. So now we're going to come on to doing our collage. So we have our templates here, and it's just a case of starting and picking a few values and seeing where we end up. So I'm going to select for the plant pot, I'm going to go in with the black. Don't throw anything away. What you need to observe is that we want this to be the correct way round. So you're going to flip over any of these rubbins and any of these paintings, and you're also, the C is laid down. Then you get your pencil and cut out. Doesn't matter if it's not exact. These could have been a little bit drier, but we'll just be careful and hope that they don't rip. Okay. And just keep everything for now, because we might come back to use that black. Don't stick anything down until you're happy with your placing of the value. So I'm just going to take a plain piece of paper. Lots of papers going on here. So this is the start of my plant pot. And then I might look for a texture for the circle. So against black, I'm going to be a little bit lighter. So we flip over, and hopefully everything will come out the correct way around. So if you take your pencil and you rock back and forth with that pencil, we have more control over the tracing. If you're doing this together, then obviously one to hold and one to trace around, as this. You don't necessarily need to start on white. You could start on a mark. In fact, that's what we might do. So this is the inside. Like this. Don't know where it goes just yet, but we'll figure that out just before we glue. And then we come down and we've got the base of the plant pot. So I'm going to go a little bit darker again for the base of the plant pot. So I'll take this. So what we've got now is we have used all of our rubbins and our value paintings. And I've arranged them actually on a background which was my lightest rubbin. I'm just looking at the Hockneys here, and they both have backgrounds to them. So I've used one of my rubbins for the background, And then it's a case now of just sticking them down. So just going to take them all off. And I know that this is the lowest one, or the bottom one. So then I'm just going to use a piece of paper, a spare piece of paper, and just glue that down. Making sure that it's somewhere in the middle. So I'll do my plant pot first. And again, try and make it as symmetrical as you can. What comes next? Glue's not very good. But what we're going to do is we're going to put this underneath the photocopier to get ourselves a do-it-yourself print. Do-it-yourself photocopied print. And if your printer will take it, you might put some cartridge paper in the tray so the print is a better quality. So we'll do that. And then the plant pot. Make it as symmetrical as you can. I'm looking also at my original drawing or line drawing just to figure out where things go. So that is fairly in the centre. And then I've got the lighter bit there. Banana shape, just there. And then what we're going to do, just to make it look a little bit more cactus-like, we may want to just get our black again and just cut off some tiny rectangles or just shapes which will mimic something that looks quite spiky. This is when it all gets a little bit messy. So just if the cactus was quite dark, the value was quite dark up here, you could contrast that with white. Oops. So we'll have a go at them. So you just get the little shape, pop it on your glue, and then just think about the spikes coming off the cactus. Don't need to kind of do all of them, but just at the top and just outside and off the shape. You could even, freehand paint some of this if you wanted to kind of get a little bit more detail in. But the contrast really makes the image come alive, which I quite like. Because really this is the focus. So you don't need to cover the whole of the shape with these little spikes, but just enough to make you think and to give an impression of a cactus. So this is This is the finished result, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take it over to the photocopier and get ourselves a print. So here we are then, we're just going to lay it down, do a black and white, and if you do have better quality paper, then put that inside the tray. So leave that to and this is our finished print. Really happy with that. Sign it and we can frame it.